my family and in my culture, going to university isn't a question. It's really which university can you get into, and there's 4 professions you really got to fit into when your family's kind of proud. Lawyer, accountant, doctor, engineer. All right, so tick for me, and my brother's an accountant, tick for my brother, right? I was preparing for this talk, and I was like, at any point, my parents told me the point of why I was going to be educated, had they stressed the purpose. And I think the assumption is that if you go to the right school and you get the right degree from the right university, you will then go and have the right job, be happy, be successful, have some money, and life will work out. The problem is that assumption now is defunct. If you think about the current public education system, has its roots to about the 19th century, the time of the Industrial Revolution, when we were thinking of machines, factory lines, assembly lines, and perhaps for that age it was appropriate. For now, I think it's not. We work a lot in the universities, and the problem I guess we see, or what we see, is that the uni students or young people still, as a majority, have the blinkers on. They think that degree is a guarantee. They think it's an assumption to a good life. And for me, the reality is, different. Okay, so this is my key message. I think one of the greatest casualties or victims of the current educational model is that we so heavily penalize and discriminate failure. In a standardized system where there's smart, not smart, fail, pass, failure in all its forms is not, failure is not accepted or tolerated. So I was at Sydney Uni, I studied law, I did 5 years there. 2 years I kind of flew, did all right. My 3rd year, I remember, I failed constitutional law, right? I still can't pass it, I don't think. Got the piece of paper and I remember that 47%. And it floored me. One, as soon as that kicks in, I guess my mind was like, okay, now my GPA is affected. Can I get that legal degree? How does an F on a transcript look like? At the time, I was also an international student, so you can only fail once or twice before your visa is revoked. As I saw in the paper this week, thousands had happened to them. So it really stopped me. The good thing, in hindsight, of course, it sucked when it happened. It was humiliating. I looked around and no one else had failed, and of course I kept it quiet. The good thing, it was really got me to reassess where I was going, right? It also got me to really dig deep on what I wanted to do and to overcome. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that failure can give you, is that it gives you an opportunity to define your character. And for me, character is the stuff that makes life happen. It's the stuff that, it's what tells you whether you kind of keep going on, what stops you, how long you're stopped for. I think knowing that about you is priceless. If we had a system or an educational model that encouraged that nurtured it, that I honestly think we need something that will encourage us to fail as much as possible. Fail fast. Why? Why? Don't hit the mic. Next speakers. Why? It'll get rid of the stigma attached with failure. But 2, it'll give you practice on how to overcome and achieve. And when you have that, I think then kind of life opens up for you. Okay, do you want to? So, do I see change happening in the education space? Yes. Do I think it's going to come from the educational institutions and the policymakers? Call me cynical. No. I don't think so, because 1, I think they're really vested, and 2, it would require an honest assessment on their part to go that they failed, and 3, I think a lot of their business models and organizational structures they need to cannibalize it. They need to eat into their own and create. And I don't see them doing that. Where do I see the brave new world dawning from? From conversations like this. I was, if you guys have heard of course you've heard of TED, YouTube, Udemy, Grokkit, and countless other sort of online and tech websites. They've really opened up the educational model. It's come back to the individual again. It's the individual, it's me learning at my pace, who I want to learn from, what I want to learn, and where I'm going to learn it. I think that is a step in the right direction. Okay, so the last one. So, 5 minutes almost up. I love Da Vinci. Right? I've studied a bit about him. He was like a mathematician, an astronomer, a physicist, biologist, artist, and he was also supposedly really beautiful. Right? And one of the most beautiful things about him was that his mind was so unrestrained. It was so divergent. There were so many ideas and concepts he could really marry together. And then he created a lot of great stuff. For me, if we could go back, I guess that is the fundamental purpose of education, or of education model, is to really awake that human potential that lies in each of us, instead of to be educated out of it. And if we could have something that encouraged us to experiment, to fail, to try stuff, to be crazy, to be radical, I think we are definitely in the right direction towards realizing who we are and really tapping into the mind. It's sad for me that people like, or figures like Da Vinci are an exception. I think it should be the rule. And that's me.